The desperate call. The silver towers of Kalani Prime burned against the violet sky as Commander Tal pressed his hand against the communication console. Around him, the planetary defense center shook with each impact from the Vorthan bombardment. His people, tall, graceful beings with skin like polished metal, worked frantically at their stations, their large eyes reflecting the orange glow of distant explosions. "Commander, the northern districts have fallen," reported Captain Nix, his voice trembling. "The Vorthan ground forces are advancing on the civilian shelters." Tal closed his eyes for a moment. 6 months ago, the Kalani homeworld had been a paradise of art and learning. Their greatest weapons were words and wisdom. They had never needed anything more. The galaxy had seemed so peaceful until the Vorthan Empire arrived. The Vorthan were everything the Kalani were not. Where the Kalani were tall and slender, the Vorthan were massive and armored. Where the Kalani built libraries, the Vorthan built weapons. Where the Kalani sought knowledge, the Vorthan sought conquest. They had come not for resources or territory, but for the simple pleasure of watching a civilization die slowly. "Status on the long-range transmitter?" Tal asked. "Working, but barely," Nix replied. "The Vorthan are jamming most frequencies, but we found a clear channel in the deep space band." Tal nodded. 3 days ago, a refugee ship from the Centauri worlds had brought news of a species called humans. The refugees spoke of Earth's people as helpers and peacemakers. They had heard stories of human diplomats resolving conflicts and human aid ships, bringing supplies to war-torn worlds. If even half the stories were true, humanity might be their only hope. "Open the channel," Tal ordered. The console hummed to life, its crystals glowing brighter as power flowed through the system. In the distance, another explosion lit the sky, and the building shook again. Tal could hear children crying in the emergency shelters below. "This is Commander Tal of the Kalani Confederation," he began, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "To any species that can hear this transmission, we are facing extinction. The Vorthan Empire has invaded our homeworld. Our defenses have failed. Our people are dying." He paused as a massive explosion rocked the building. Dust fell from the ceiling and several screens flickered. "We have heard of a species called humans from the planet Earth," Tal continued. "We have been told you are a peaceful people who help those in need. If you can hear this message, please help us. We are not warriors. We have nothing to offer but our friendship and what remains of our knowledge. But we have children who deserve to see tomorrow." Another blast, closer this time. The lights flickered, and Tal heard the sound of energy weapons in the streets below. "Our coordinates are attached to this transmission," he said quickly. "We estimate we have days, perhaps hours, before our capital falls. If you cannot help us, fight. Please help our people escape. We will remember your kindness forever." The transmission ended, just as the main power failed. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the command center. Through the tall windows, Tal could see Vorthan aircraft moving like dark insects against the burning sky. "Sir?" Nix called out, his voice filled with sudden hope. "We're receiving a response." Tal's heart jumped. "So quickly?" "Put it through the speakers." The reply was brief, transmitted in perfect Kalani language. "Message received. Help is coming. Prepare your people." The command center erupted in cheers. Tal felt tears running down his silver cheeks. After months of hopelessness, someone had answered their call. "Send a reply," Tal ordered. "Tell them we are grateful. Ask them what they need from us, what preparations we should make." But only silence came back. The humans, it seemed, were people of few words. Over the next few days, as the Vorthan forces closed in around the capital, the Kalani held on to hope. They prepared for the arrival of human aid ships and diplomatic vessels. They cleared landing areas and gathered their most precious cultural artifacts to share with their saviors. General Cross, the Vorthan commander, laughed when his scouts reported increased Kalani communications activity. "Let them call for help," he rumbled to his officers from his command ship in orbit. "No one in this galaxy has the spine to face the Vorthan Empire. When their hope dies with them, the victory will be even sweeter." But in the depths of space, Something was moving toward the Kalani system. Something the galaxy had never seen before. The help was indeed coming, but it would not be the salvation the Kalani expected. The humans were coming to war. First Contact, Gone Wrong 3. Light years away from the dying Kalani homeworld, Admiral Jack Ross stood in the command center of the TDF Retribution, studying the tactical display with cold blue eyes. The message from the Kalani had reached Earth's deep space monitoring stations 18 hours ago, and the Terran Defense Force had responded with typical human efficiency. "Sir, the fleet is assembled and ready for jump," reported Commander Lisa Park, her voice crisp and professional. 12 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, and the Retribution. We can be in the Kalani system in 6 hours. Ross nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion. At 52, he had commanded human forces through 3 major conflicts, each one teaching him the same lesson. The galaxy was full of predators, and predators only understood one language. "Any word from the diplomatic corps?" he asked. "Ambassador, Williams submitted a formal protest about launching a military response without attempting negotiation first," Park replied. "The Security Council overruled him. Unanimous vote." Ross wasn't surprised. Humanity had encountered the Vorthan Empire twice before. The first time, human diplomats had spent 6 months trying to negotiate a peace treaty, while the Vorthan enslaved an entire star system. The second time, they had tried economic sanctions while the Vorthan committed genocide on 3 worlds. There would not be a third time. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving tactical data from our deep space probes. The Vorthan fleet consists of 47 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts. They significantly outnumber us." "Good," Ross said quietly. "I was hoping they'd feel confident." The human fleet jumped to hyperspace with mechanical precision. Unlike the flowing, organic ships of most galactic species, human vessels were angular and dark, covered in sensor-absorbing materials, and bristling with weapons that had never been seen in galactic warfare. 6 hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kalani system. "Sir, we're being hailed by the Kalani," the communications officer reported. "Audio and visual. Put them through." The main screen flickered to life, showing Commander Tal in what appeared to be an underground bunker. His silver skin was pale with exhaustion and his large eyes were filled with desperate hope. "Thank you for coming," Tal said. His words rushed with emotion. "We had almost given up hope." "How many refugee ships did you bring?" "Our civilian population is approximately 12 million, but we understand if you can only take the children." "And stop," Ross interrupted, his voice cutting through Tal's words like ice. "We didn't come here to evacuate anyone." Tal blinked in confusion. "I don't understand. You said help was coming. We need transport ships, medical supplies, food, for our people." "Commander Tal," Ross said slowly, "we came here to end the Vorthan threat. Permanently." "End it? You mean negotiate with them? Drive them away?" Tal's voice was filled with growing uncertainty. Ross leaned forward, his cold blue eyes staring directly into the camera. "I mean, kill every single Vorthan in this system." The silence stretched for long seconds. Tal's mouth opened and closed without sound, his silver features growing even paler. But we called for aid," Tal finally whispered. "We asked for help saving our people." "Your people will be saved," Ross replied, "when the threat to them is eliminated. Get your civilians into the deepest shelters you have. Stay there. Until we signal all clear. This will be over soon." "Wait, please," Tal called out desperately. "There has to be another way. The Vorthan have civilians too, families." Ross cut the transmission. "Sir," Commander Park said quietly, "was that necessary?" "They need to understand what kind of help they asked for," Ross replied. "Signal the fleet. All ships to battle stations." 20 minutes later, the human fleet was detected by Vorthan sensors. General Cross, the massive Vorthan commander, studied the tactical display from his flagship's bridge with amusement. 17 ships? He rumbled. his voice like grinding stone. These humans must be either very brave or very stupid. His bridge crew laughed, their armored forms shaking with mirth. The Vorthon dreadnoughts were each the size of a small city, their hulls covered in weapons and armor plating. The human ships looked like insects by comparison. "Should we demand their surrender, General?" asked his tactical officer. "No," Cross decided. "Let's see what these newcomers can do. It's been too long since we had a real fight." The Vorthon fleet moved to intercept, confident in their overwhelming numbers and firepower. They had crushed every species they had encountered for over 2 centuries. These humans would be no different. But as the two fleets closed the distance between them, Admiral Ross smiled for the first time in days. The Vorthon were about to learn why humanity had spent the last 50 years preparing for war instead of joining the galactic community. They were about to discover that Earth species didn't just fight to win, they fought to eliminate threats forever. The wrath unleashed. The first volley of Vorthon plasma fire lit up space like a deadly aurora. Massive energy beams, each one capable of melting through a mountain, streaked toward the human fleet. General Cross watched from his flagship's bridge, expecting to see the smaller human vessels vaporized instantly. Instead, the human ships simply weren't there anymore. "What?" Cross roared, his massive fists slamming down on the command console. "Where did they go?" The answer came in the form of kinetic rounds striking his fleet from impossible angles. Solid tungsten rods, accelerated to near light speed, punched through Vorthon shields like they were made of paper. 3 dreadnoughts lost their main weapons in the first 10 seconds of combat. "They're using stealth technology," his tactical officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. "Our sensors can't maintain locks." "Impossible," Cross snarled. "No species has stealth that advanced." But the humans did. While other galactic species had focused on bigger ships and more powerful energy weapons, humanity had taken a different path. They had studied every conflict in recorded galactic history and learned a simple truth. The best battle was one your enemy couldn't fight back in. Admiral Ross watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. His ships flickered in and out of sensor visibility, striking from unexpected vectors before vanishing again. The Vorthon fleet was powerful, but power meant nothing if you couldn't hit your target. "Target their command ships first," Ross ordered. "Cut off their coordination." Human plasma cannons, focused and precise, began systematically destroying Vorthon communication arrays. Unlike the massive, wasteful energy weapons most species used, human technology was surgical. Every shot had a purpose. "Sir," Commander Park reported, "the enemy fleet is trying to regroup. They're pulling back toward the planet." "Let them," Ross replied coldly. "Signal the Wraith Squadron, time for Phase 2. In the depths of space, 12 small human ships that had been hiding in the asteroid belt powered up their engines. Unlike the main fleet, these vessels were built for one purpose: planetary assault. Each one carried weapons that the galactic community had banned centuries ago. Down on Kalani Prime, Commander Tal watched the space battle through his shelter's periscope with growing horror. This wasn't the clean, honorable combat depicted in their historical records. This was systematic slaughter. "Commander," Captain Nix whispered beside him, "the humans are winning." "Yes," Tal replied quietly, "but look how they're doing it." Every Vorthon ship that tried to surrender was destroyed. Every escape pod that launched was hunted down and eliminated. The humans weren't just defeating their enemies, they were exterminating them. "Sir," a Vorthon communications officer reported to General Cross, 17 of our ships have been destroyed. We've lost contact with the planetary garrison." Cross's yellow eyes blazed with fury and, for the first time in his military career, fear. The humans fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They showed no mercy, took no prisoners, and seemed to anticipate every tactical move his forces made. "Signal the homeworld," he ordered. "Tell them." His words were cut off as the flagship's main power failed. Through the bridge's armored windows, he could see small human craft attached to his ship's hull like parasites. They were cutting through the armor with tools that glowed white-hot. "Boarding parties, sir," his tactical officer reported. "They're coming through the hull." But the humans weren't coming to board. They were placing something against the ship's reactor core. Something that began to emit a high-pitched whine. "Evacuation alert," Cross bellowed, but it was too late. The device detonated and the Vorthon flagship died in a ball of nuclear fire that could be seen from the planet's surface. On the ground, the remaining Vorthon occupation force was learning that humans didn't limit their ruthlessness to space combat. Human drop pods rained down like meteors, but instead of soldiers, they contained something far worse. Chemical agents, designed specifically to target Vorthon biology, began spreading through the atmosphere. The compounds were harmless to Kalani physiology but lethal to the invaders. Within minutes, Vorthon soldiers were collapsing in the streets, their massive forms convulsing as their respiratory systems shut down. "My God," Tal whispered, watching through his shelter's cameras as the occupying army died in agony. "They're using biological weapons." The humans had studied captured Vorthon genetic material from previous encounters and engineered a perfect weapon. It was efficient, targeted, and absolutely merciless. High above, Admiral Ross received the final report from his fleet commanders. "All Vorthon vessels destroyed, sir," Commander Park reported. "No survivors. Ground forces are eliminated. Total human casualties, 0. Ross nodded. The battle had lasted exactly 43 minutes from first contact to complete victory. It wasn't really a battle at all. It had been an execution. "Signal the Kalani," he ordered. "Tell them it's safe to come out." But as Tal emerged from his shelter into the chemical-tainted air, looking at the bodies of Vorthon soldiers scattered across his world's surface, he realized that while they were safe from the invaders, they now faced something potentially far more dangerous. The humans hadn't just saved them. They had demonstrated the kind of warfare that could end civilizations in less than an hour. And now Earth knew exactly where Kalani Prime was located. The aftermath, the silence that followed the battle was more terrifying than the explosions had been. Commander Tal walked through the streets of his capital city, stepping carefully around the bodies of Vorthon soldiers. The chemical agents had dissipated hours ago, but the smell of death lingered in the air like a warning. Around him, other Kalani emerged from their shelters, their silver faces reflecting the same mixture of relief and horror that Tal felt. They were alive, but the cost of their salvation was becoming clearer with every step. "Commander," Captain Nix appeared at his side, his voice barely above a whisper. "The humans are requesting a meeting. Admiral Ross wants to speak with you." Tal nodded slowly. He had been dreading this moment since watching the systematic extermination of the Vorthon fleet. The humans had answered their call for help, but their methods revealed something about Earth species that chilled him to his core. The meeting took place in what remained of the planetary council chambers. Admiral Ross materialized as a hologram, his cold blue eyes scanning the damaged room with clinical interest. Behind him, Tal could see the bridge of a human warship, all angular surfaces and harsh lighting. "Commander Tal," Ross began without preamble, "the immediate threat to your world has been eliminated." "Yes," Tal replied carefully, "and we are grateful for your intervention." Ross's expression didn't change. "Don't be. We didn't do this for you." The words hit Tal like a physical blow. "I don't understand." "The Vorthon Empire has been expanding aggressively for over 2 centuries, Ross explained, his voice matter-of-fact. "They've enslaved 17 species and committed genocide on at least 6 worlds. We've been tracking their movements, waiting for the right opportunity to eliminate them as a threat." Tal's legs felt weak. "You mean you were planning to attack them anyway?" "Eventually. Your distress call simply provided us with their exact location and fleet strength. It was convenient timing." The truth crashed over Tal like a wave. The humans hadn't come to save the Kalani. They had come to wage war, and the Kalani homeworld had simply been a convenient battlefield. "What happens now?" Tal asked, though he dreaded the answer. Ross was quiet for a moment, seeming to consider his words. "The Vorthon threat is ended, however, this system is now under human protection." "Protection?" Tal repeated. Any aggressive species that enters this space will be dealt with the same way we dealt with the Vorthon. You have our word on that." It sounded like protection, but Tal heard the unspoken message. The humans weren't asking permission. They were informing him of a decision that had already been made. "And if we don't want the protection?" Ross's smile was colder than vacuum. "Commander, look around your world. Look at what remains of the most feared military power in this sector of the galaxy. Do you really think you're in a position to refuse?" Within hours of the meeting, human ships began establishing a permanent presence in the system. A monitoring station appeared in orbit, its sensors capable of detecting any ship entering the area. Human patrols began regular sweeps of the outer planets. The news of the Vorthon fleet's complete destruction spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Species that had cowered before Vorthon might for generations suddenly found themselves free, but the source of their liberation terrified them even more than their former oppressors. In the council chambers of the Galactic Trade Federation, Emergency Session 2847 was called to order. "Very little," Vex admitted. "They use technology we've never seen before. Weapons that target specific biological systems, stealth systems that render our sensors useless, and they showed absolutely no mercy to defeated enemies. Perhaps they were simply defending the Kalani," suggested the representative from Proxima. "The Kalani report that the humans explicitly stated they didn't come to save them," Vex replied grimly. "They came to eliminate what they perceived as a threat. The question now is, what else do they perceive as threatening?" Back on Kalani Prime, Tal stood in his rebuilt office, staring out at the human patrol ships moving across the violet sky. His people were safe, fed, and protected. The humans had even provided medical aid and reconstruction materials, but they were no longer free. "Sir," Nix entered quietly, carrying a communication pad. "We're receiving messages from other worlds. They want to know about the humans. What should we tell them?" Tal considered the question for a long moment. What could he tell them? That humanity had saved his people by committing genocide? That Earth species fought wars not to win territory or resources, but to eliminate problems permanently? "Tell them the truth," he finally said. "Tell them that the humans will help you, but make sure they understand the price." As night fell over Kalani Prime, Tal composed a message that would be broadcast across known space. It was not a plea for help this time, but a warning. "To all species of the galaxy, we are the Kalani. 3 days ago, we faced extinction at the hands of the Vorthon Empire. We called for help and the humans of Earth answered. The Vorthon are gone now, all of them, forever. The humans saved us, but we have learned something important about our saviors. They do not negotiate with threats. They eliminate them. Completely. Be very careful what you ask them for help with. And be even more careful that they never see you as a threat yourself." The message would reach every corner of civilized space within weeks. Some species would celebrate the end of Vorthon tyranny. Others would begin making plans to stay as far away from human space as possible. But in the depths of space, Admiral Ross was already receiving new orders from Earth Command. The Vorthon had been just the beginning. Humanity had identified 17 other aggressive species that posed potential threats to galactic stability. The peacekeeping missions were just getting started. The new reality 6 months after the Vorthon, Annihilation as historians would later call it, the galaxy had settled into an uneasy new order. In the pristine halls of Earth's Terran Command Center, Admiral Ross studied the holographic display showing humanity's expanding sphere of influence. 53 star systems now fell under human protection protocols, and the number grew weekly. "Sir," Commander Park reported, entering his office with a datapad, "we've received another request for intervention. The Rigel Coalition is reporting attacks from the Savage Fleet Raiders." Ross examined the report with practiced efficiency. The Savage Fleet was a confederation of pirate clans that had terrorized merchant shipping for decades. Like the Vorthon, they were parasites who contributed nothing to galactic civilization except fear and death. "Deploy Task Force 7, he ordered. "Standard elimination protocols." "Yes, sir." The coalition is expecting us to drive off the raiders and perhaps capture their leaders for trial. Ross's expression didn't change. They'll learn otherwise soon. Enough. Across the galaxy, species were indeed learning about humanity's approach to problem-solving. On Kalani Prime, Commander Tal received daily reports from other worlds, each one adding to his growing understanding of what his distress call had unleashed upon the galaxy. The humans didn't engage in limited warfare. They didn't seek to wound or discourage their enemies. When humanity identified a threat, they removed it from existence with surgical precision and absolute finality. Commander, Captain Nix entered Tal's office, his silver features creased with worry. We're receiving a delegation from the Centauri Republic. They want to discuss the human situation. Tal sighed deeply. The Centauri were the galaxy's self-appointed diplomats, always seeking to mediate conflicts and build consensus. They would not understand what they were dealing with. Send them to the conference room, Tal replied, but warn them that human patrol ships monitor all communications in this system. An hour later, Tal sat across from Ambassador Thane, a tall, blue-skinned Centauri with the elaborate facial markings of his diplomatic caste. Two other Centauri flanked him, both looking nervous despite their formal composure. Commander Tal, Thane began in his species' melodious voice, we come seeking information about humanity's intentions. Their methods have caused great concern among the civilized worlds. What would you like to know? Tal asked carefully. Are they planning to conquer the galaxy? Their military expansion suggests territorial ambitions. Tal was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Through the conference room's windows, he could see a human destroyer moving silently across the sky, its dark hull almost invisible against the stars. Ambassador, I don't think you understand what humanity is, he finally said. They're not conquerors in the traditional sense. They don't want our territory or our resources. Then what do they want? Control, Tal replied simply. They want a galaxy where no species can threaten others, and they're willing to exterminate anyone who disagrees with that vision. Thane's blue features paled. Surely you're exaggerating. No species could be so ruthless, Tal finished. 3 days ago, the Savage Fleet attacked a human convoy carrying medical supplies to the Outer Rim colonies. Do you know what happened? The Centauri shook their heads. The humans didn't just destroy the attacking ships. They tracked down every single vessel in the Savage Fleet Confederation. Every base, every asteroid hideout, every supply depot. In 18 hours, they eliminated a pirate organization that had existed for over a century. Completely. Not one ship escaped. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of the building's life support systems. But that's... Thane struggled for words. That's genocide. Yes, Tal agreed quietly. But the merchant shipping lanes are now completely safe for the first time in generations. On Earth, in the depths of the Global Security Council chambers, humanity's leaders were making decisions that would reshape galactic civilization. President Chen Wei addressed the assembled representatives of Earth's major powers. The Kalani intervention was more successful than we projected, she reported. Galactic response has been mixed, but compliance with our peacekeeping operations is running at 97%. General Harrison, the grizzled head of Terran Defense Forces, stood to address the council. Ma'am, we've identified 43 aggressive species or organizations that pose ongoing threats to civilized worlds. Our forces are capable of eliminating these threats within the next 2 years. Opposition? President Chen asked. Minimal. Most species are too terrified to interfere. A few diplomatic protests, but nothing substantial. Defense Minister Okafor raised a concern. Are we certain this is the path we want to take? Once we establish ourselves as the galaxy's enforcers, there's no going back. President Chen's expression was resolute. Minister, humanity spent centuries fighting wars against ourselves while developing the technology to reach the stars. When we finally made contact with galactic civilization, what did we find? Species terrorizing each other while the so-called peaceful worlds looked the other way. The Vorthon enslaved billions while the Galactic Trade Federation held committee meetings. She stood, walking to the massive window that showed Earth's blue oceans beneath white clouds. Someone has to keep the peace. Someone has to ensure that species like the Kalani can call for help and actually receive it. If that someone has to be us, then we'll bear that responsibility. Back in the Kalani system, Tal was finishing his evening reports when his communication system chimed with an incoming message. The source code indicated it came from deep space, beyond the human patrol perimeter. "This is Captain Zara of the independent freighter Wandering Star," the message began. "We're carrying refugees from the Rigel sector. The humans destroyed our homeworld. They said we were harboring pirates, but we were just trying to survive. Please, if there's anywhere safe left in the galaxy, tell us where to go." Tal stared at the message for a long time. The humans had eliminated another threat, but as always, there had been collateral damage. Innocent beings caught in the crossfire of humanity's version of peace. He composed his reply carefully. "Captain Zara, you may dock at Kalani Prime. You'll be safe here. But understand that safety comes with a price. We are all under human protection. Now, they decide what threatens the peace and they decide how to deal with those threats. Welcome to the new galaxy." As he sent the message, Tal reflected on the irony of their situation. The Kalani had called for help and received it. The galaxy was indeed becoming more peaceful as humanity eliminated threat after threat. Piracy was nearly extinct. Aggressive expansion had stopped. Wars between species were becoming rare. But peace enforced at the barrel of a gun wasn't really peace at all. It was submission. Outside his window, human patrol ships continued their silent vigil, guardians and wardens both. The galaxy was learning to live under humanity's protection, whether it wanted to or not. And in the depths of space, Admiral Ross received confirmation that Task Force 7 had successfully eliminated the Savage Fleet. Another threat neutralized. Another step toward the ordered, peaceful galaxy that humanity envisioned. The humans had answered the Kalani's call for aid and delivered exactly what they promised: help. They had simply redefined what help meant. They hadn't saved the Kalani from the Vorthon. They had saved the galaxy from chaos itself, whether the galaxy wanted to be saved or not. The end.